Welcome viewers to our next episode of The Thought Leader Way, where I'm bringing together experts from across the world to share their perspectives on what it takes to be a thought leader and what their journey has been towards becoming a thought leader. So today I have a special guest with me, Laura Goodrich. She is among the top 20 thought leaders in transformation and future of work, risk management, change culture, and technology, as per Thinkers 360. She is also recognized as the 10 most inspiring businesswomen to watch out for in 2020. So, Laura, real pleasure connecting with you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
I'm delighted to be here.
So Laura, you've been recognized as a thought leader across different areas. The future of work is something which is very interesting to know. So tell our viewers what exactly, according to you, is a thought leader, or what is thought leadership?
You know, I thought about this, and I don't put a lot of thought into what thought leadership is. I put a lot of thought into the things that I really care about.
Mm-hmm.
It was in 1994 that I read an article, and it was a 4 Sunday segment article called "On the Cutting Edge of the Digital Age," and it describes life as we live it. And
Mm-hmm.
describe technologies that were, beyond comprehension. And I bought 25 copies of that piece, and I gave it to people, and they were not nearly as interested in it as I was. But it was, I think the question comes down to is what are you going to be a thought leader in? And, if it's something that is just incredibly interesting to you, something that you could read about, listen about, talk about, forever and never tire of it, that really is, that thing. I
Okay.
remember one time a woman came to me and she said, "I want to talk to you about what you do." She said, I am a really good speaker. And she said, "I
Mhm.
can talk about anything. Like I could talk about salt and pepper." And I said, "Well, people don't really care about salt and pepper." you know? So it's got to be something that you are so interested in and that you want to learn about and that you thirst for and you never tire of. And also something that gathers the attention of an audience, that somebody, that there are people that want to learn about it, that are as maybe not as interested, but it's important that they understand.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. But we also see these days that a lot of people claim to be thought leaders, right? So do you think somebody can claim to be a thought leader, or how does one recognize who could be a thought leader or who is a thought leader?
Well, it's certainly not something that you sort of sign up for or you go through a certification for or anything like that. I think, and it doesn't trouble me that people, sort of make that claim, because at the end of the day, it really comes down to effort, interest,
Mm,
and certainly somebody, particularly with the emerging technologies, somebody could
mm,
emerge as a thought leader in some of these emerging technologies simply by understanding them
mm.
well and, really working hard to get into the depth of the understanding. So I don't think it necessarily means that you have decades of experience, though a lot of times there are decades of experience
Yeah.
that really lend to that.
Mm, mm. True. So it's a lot of experience adds to credibility that way. So, how do leaders build a culture of thought leadership in their organization, and especially in the new normal where post the COVID situation, a lot of businesses have got disrupted. So buyers' decision making is going to change. So there's going to be a lot more focus on trust, credibility, and better ROI for the investments that they are making. So, how does thought leadership play a role in such a scenario?
Well, because there's no roadmap for where we're at, right? And anybody that can create insight about how to determine where to go and what to do and
Mhm.
how to help will be, really wanted and desired to bring in. So if there is insight of how to, one of the things that I've been talking a lot about, because we've been focusing on this, is remote leadership. And that really looks at some of the barriers to innovation, creativity, and what's next. Well, if you can imagine, many organizations are very concerned about these barriers. They're unwritten, they haven't been talked about very much. And so if they can understand what are the barriers and then how do we create a path around those barriers, so that we can find our way. I mean, right now, like I said, there's just, there's more questions than answers.
True.
And anybody that would stand on a mountaintop and say, I know exactly where we're going, is, it's inaccurate. You could, there's no way to understand exactly
Mhm.
where we're going, but we can share. Now, one of the biggest things is to share what's getting in the way, and then we can begin to find our way around what is getting in the way to where we're going.
True. So it's more about sharing and jointly trying to address the situation and walking that path, which could make the difference.
I think so. And I think, really being in partnership with
Mhm.
people. And again, my position has never been to be a thought leader. My position has always been to be someone who goes hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder,
Okay.
to find the way. And what have I been doing in the last several months? I've been having conversations with one, leader after the next. What are you seeing? What are you observing?
Mhm.
Um, and continuing to ask those questions so
Mhm.
that we can then, formulate a path
Mhm.
forward.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. So, what could be a roadmap which somebody can take to become a thought leader if they have started off their journey towards being recognized as a go-to person for a particular subject or a topic? What are some things that they need to keep in mind?
Well, one, what really interests them?
Mhm.
Two, really be cognizant of where the marketplace is going. When you
Mhm.
talk about, the emphasis on the future of work, you
Yeah.
really want to be cognizant of where is the marketplace going, because it's changing. So, I mean, you really wouldn't want to be a thought leader on something that's likely to be in our rear view mirror shortly, right? That wouldn't do you or anyone else any good. So something that, a subject matter that you're just very interested in,
Mhm.
a subject matter that is germane to the world today, that,
Mhm.
that is a big question for people.
Mhm.
For instance, AI or IoT or,
Yeah.
any of those areas, there, people really don't understand them. And if you can put the time and effort to understand it and then bring that messaging back to the world in a palatable way, in a way that people can understand it, if you can really use storytelling as a means by which to
Mhm.
illustrate how it
Mhm.
works, because it's really a mystery, how those technologies, not only how they work, but how will they evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to see how they're going to evolve in the future and what impact that's going to have on lives and on businesses. So
Right.
you, yes, yes, please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's, one of the things that can be very challenging for people is that when even a simple technology sort of comes into the marketplace, it's not uncommon that people will look at that technology disparagingly.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon that young people bring that technology in, and the truth is that they use it differently. And a great example of that is texting. And when young people began texting, I just remember hearing a lot of people saying, I mean, that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And I have a friend that said that that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And I said, mark my words, everyone will do it. Grandparents will actually text at some point. It will serve as a means by which to connect and communicate. And it won't eliminate other types of communication. It will augment communication. And she said, never, never. And, of course, I sent a text to grandma last night about a television show that she should watch, and she responded. So, and back and forth, it's a touch point now, and an important one given everything that we're experiencing. So that's the question that we look at technologies and we begin to consider how will they evolve, and that's a very simple means by which to communicate that has evolved and sort of moved away from just a teenager to people both personally and professionally.
True, true. That's a very nice example of even a basic technology and how it's kind of completely changed the way people communicate, and it's become an integral part of everyone's life now.
Indeed.
Text, yeah. So, Laura, you've got a lot of accomplishments on your journey in your professional career. Being recognized by different bodies to say that you are a thought leader in your area domain of expertise. So what would be your thought leader way? So what's created that differentiator for you in your journey?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. What is created? Again, tenacity. I mean, I think that, I think one of the biggest things is tenacity. And, there are times as an entrepreneur that I could say, tenacity that sort of borders on crazy. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but, it is to stick with something when it would be easier to not, to stick with something when it's when it's harder than, than it appears. I mean, I don't think there is any easy button. There's just no such thing as an easy button. And anybody that sort of subscribes, do this, do this, do this, and do this, and you'll automatically be someplace. I don't think it's so. I think that it just requires a tenacious spirit and discipline. Just a tenacious discipline. And for me, an interest. I mean, I couldn't stick with something in the way that I have if it wasn't just incredibly interesting to me.
True, true. So I think it boils down to the interest and then having that discipline to pursue that goal that you set out for.
Right.
So my last question would be, from a gender standpoint, I'm sure you would have also come across, and there's a lot of data which shows that you do not have the representation of women in senior leadership positions globally is a very small percentage. So how does that play out when it comes to positioning yourself as a thought leader? So what are some challenges that as a woman that you encounter, and what's been your learning or some advice that you would like to give to other women out there who are starting out on this journey?
Well, I think certainly that question has been posed before, but it has never been something that I've sat with or considered really deeply. People have said, would this have been easier if you were a man? Would you have gotten here more quickly? I don't know the answer to that. I believe that you get some opportunities because of your gender, and you don't get some of them because of that. You get some opportunities because of your personality, and you miss on some because of your personality. You get some opportunities because timing is right, and you lose some because your timing is not right. I mean, there's a lot of factors, and I've never been one to sort of sit around and commiserate about whether I've gotten something because of something or not. It just doesn't seem like it would serve well. That
Okay.
being said, I do believe that there, right now, this place in time, that there is a unique opportunity for women
Mm.
in leadership. And the reason I say this is that in general, women have a capacity to read the room, read the energy of people, read the emotions of individuals, to have empathy. And given everything that we've been through, uh, those are things that are really needed.
Okay.
So I think there's a unique opportunity for women in leadership within organizations to lead the way, to play a role in having that empathy needed to help people move past some of the crisis and the social and emotional and mental health challenges that are at play right now. And it's one of those things that people aren't talking a lot about, but it is very present. And there is a lot of conflicted there are a lot of conflicted relationships right now, given all that we've been through. And that's another thing that people aren't talking about. And I think that
Mm.
women are comfortable with that conversation. They're comfortable with the emotions
Mm.
that surround it. And, if people are not given the opportunity for that dialogue, for that conversation to sort of get those experiences and feelings out, then it's kind of like putting a cover on a pot of boiling water. I mean, we're never going to get to that place. So I think that the organizations and those leaders that are very effective at that, men or women, will be the ones that lead us forward and play a role in helping us ultimately get to this place of creativity and change and innovation, because we're largely underestimating how much we're going to change. One of the things that I've been talking a lot about is that we've proven that business continuity is
Mm.
really not only possible, we are proving that out. Business continuity is working. What we
Yes.
have yet to prove is, how do we innovate
Mm.
with at least a good portion of our workers working remotely?
Yeah.
How do we integrate new team members and create a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose and a sense of being a part of something bigger than ourselves with a remote environment? We have not proven that out yet.
True.
And so those organizations and those leaders that are highly effective at creating that environment and helping people feel a part of something bigger than themselves, and
Mm.
to express themselves with what they have been through,
Mm.
uh, and then setting the stage for what is next and creating what is next,
True. True.
will be very successful.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. I think this is the best time probably to be an HR professional, right? Because you're completely relooking at how the work environment is going to be, how do remote teams operate, how do you, like rightly said, create that sense of belonging and purpose, and yet innovate and be successful. So I think that's where there's also an opportunity for a lot of people to showcase their thought leadership and their innovative thinking approach, out of the box ideas.
Indeed.
Uh,
And, I will offer, it's interesting that you mention HR, because so often, people will say, well, HR, that's the people business. And I
mm,
will argue that every leader is in the people business. And
yeah,
so if I'm the head of IT, or I'm the head of engineering or accounting, I'm in the people business. I may, you know, have a job that is oriented to technology or numbers or manufacturing, but every single leader is in the people business. And it's never been more important. And one of the things that we really drive our work, our processes with, is one leader and their team members, and really creating that accountability and that culture on that team
mm,
is key. Because
true.
if you think about, many times organizations would gather everyone together and, come on together, everyone, and here's where we're going and here's what's important to us.
Yeah.
And while we may still be gathering together in a virtual way, The reality is that once you close the door to that conversation, people are carrying on as is. They're doing as they have always done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it really comes down to that leader engaging their team members one-on-one and as a team, and creating a collective mindset that is equipped to change, to innovate, and move forward. So everybody, every single leader is in the people business.
In fact, I was listening to an HBR podcast recently, so where some one of the speakers was talking about agile leadership, and he was saying the current pandemic situation has been a very good case study to see how leadership has been agile, how teams have been agile, and how they've kind of been able to innovate both with respect to products, process, and things like that. But he was saying that I'm just a bit worried that once things go back to normal, people will switch back to their old ways of working. So he was saying this learning, what we've got in this pandemic, is something which we should actually still continue doing, irrespective of whether we had a pandemic or no pandemic, because that's the kind of innovation we've been able to achieve.
Here's a point that I would like to comment on, that is that when you talk about sort of, kind of the mindset that got us here, it's important, and that is a barrier to what is next. So I don't want to dismiss that for a moment, because what got us here is a barrier to what is next. But it's really important that we pay attention to, you've heard this saying that it takes 21 days to create a habit, right? And I think that's been disproven on many occasions. And most of us have demonstrated that 21 days of exercise, and lo and behold, you fall off that track. But let's be really clear about what we've experienced. 21 days plus 21 days plus 21 days plus 21 days plus 21 days. So what we have happening right now is absolutely morphing and changing behavior. And it is behavior that is going to stick with us, and it is expectations that are going to stick with us. And so this is something that we are paying very, very close attention to, is how is our behavior changing, and in what way will this transition into employee expectation?
True.
And so those organizations that are paying attention to it, for instance, I spoke with the CEO not long ago, and he said, well, just as soon as the pandemic has lessened and there's a vaccination, we'll bring everyone back to the office. That's just the way that we'll do it. Well, simultaneously, there's another organization next door that says, well, we've demonstrated we can get the job done. We're now going to really commit to helping our leaders and supporting our leaders in, in creating that sense of team and passion and the like. We're going to support our leaders in doing that, and we're going to provide flexibility. Guess what? People are looking for flexibility now. People now recognize that there is value in being able to get the job done in a remote environment, because it's, in many cases, it has a lot less distractions. So, what we will see is some that are ready to go back to what was, and others that are ready to design something that is different. And in particular, when you look at young professionals, they are going to latch on to that. So you can, for those that are just going to go back to business as usual, they likely are not going to draw the best and the brightest. And what we see right now, despite everything that we're going through, is we're seeing those great innovative employees are getting lured into exciting opportunities. Those very small or a subset of organizations that really see this as a time of opportunity, and they're not operating with a sense of fear. They're operating with a sense of, we have a really good opportunity here to emerge out of this with new innovation, with changed, products and processes and ways, and a culture and environment that will draw the very, very best and brightest. And I'm very interested in those organizations and supporting them.
Yes, yes. So I think there is a lot of opportunities which are available to innovate and to create newer ways of working. And I think thought leaders out there will lead the way. And I'm also being optimistic that this will lead into something a lot more exciting for us in the future. On
I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more. I couldn't agree more. When you talk about, my focus on the future of work is that one of the statements that I have said is that when you face that moment or that time of transformation, there is peril and there will be organizations that meet their demise, and we're seeing them now, right? We're recognizing those organizations, and there'll be more. It is a time of peril, but it is also a time of opportunity, of extraordinary opportunity, and other times of revolutionary change like we are in.
true, true.
In other times, there has been much more opportunity that has emerged out of that transformation than
Yes,
peril. And so I believe that there will be exciting businesses, technologies, and ways to work that
true,
will eliminate a lot of the things that nobody truly really wants to do or
true,
really enjoys, and
true.
usher in exciting new things to learn and exciting new ways to work that
Yeah.
will enhance the quality of lives of both the customers, employees, leaders, and organizations alike.
True, true. Totally agree with you. So, thanks, Laura. It was wonderful talking to you. Thanks for sharing your insights and perspectives on and the opportunities which exist for a new future for all of us. Thank you once again for your time.
You are absolutely welcome.